Thank you. And I think that the underlying dynamics of the Houthis in Yemen, et cetera, brings us to the question of Sunni-Shia interactions and changing kind of power concepts in the region. I've got several questions about how has the switch to majority Shia rule in Iraq affected the dynamics of the region? Do we see any further sort of aspirations of Shia in Bahrain or others? Should we see other kind of Shia-driven political developments? And will significant Shia populations in Bahrain, Kuwait, and in the Gulf become a deterrent to Iran? How do we see cooperation between and among the Shia on ideological lines? And Sami, I should have given you a warning. Are you willing to take that question?
Sure.
Could you take it? Thank you.
As if I had a choice. I believe that, you know, the battle today, you know, it's not quite declared, but it was quite declared actually by the Saudi foreign minister a few months back when he said, after the 3-4 summits in the, you know, in the Arab world or the Gulf in one single stretch, that, you know, we are in a open confrontation with Iran. And what is important for us in the GCC, as in Iraq and Yemen, is to really not allow something, a foreign entity to really speak for members of our citizens, you know, our citizenry. And therefore, the battle today is, everybody at the time was looking at the Lebanese election, but I think the place where people should have looked actually was at the Kuwaiti elections. In the Kuwaiti elections, if you look at the Shias, never won as many seats as they have today in Kuwait. They won 10. They used to have 5. Once in their life reached, you know, 8. But now with organization and utilizing the outlets, the open outlets through the constitution, they managed to get 10. And out of that 10, 8 are the people who believe in the unity of Kuwait, and 2 troublemakers. So this tells you about the Iranian agenda. The second thing is that, you know, we had 4 female members of parliament, but 2 of them were very notable Shiite citizens, you know, very well known. And today, I think the problem between us and our ally, the United States, is that in certain conditions we ought to be left to our own devices. So when we were left to our own devices, we managed to battle the Iranians on the Lebanese political settings. And you know, the outcome of the Lebanese elections was different than what people expected. And if Iran has money and has intrigue and has whatever, we have also money and we have intelligence services and we could beat them. This is a war, an open war. But we'd rather fight it on this level than fight it on the military level. Now, if you look at, I am telling you, it's not a secret. The GCC and others are going to intervene in the next Iraqi elections, because today we are left to our own devices. If we leave it to, you know, one man, one vote, you will get Maliki and people leaning towards Iran. And this is going to really betray the whole cause of you sending your kids to fight for Iraq. And so we are complementing the job that on a different level. But this is not something that is new we are proposing to the United States. We have already proposed to the United States since. And today you have, I'm telling you about my personal experience with tribal leaders of Iraq, you know, the Sunni tribes and the Shia tribes as well. They all are for an independent Iraq leaning towards the Arab world, not towards Iran. Because for us, the balance of power is an independent Iraq, not Iraq leaning towards the GCC or Egypt or Turkey or Israel or Iran. Otherwise, you will have conflict in the region, and you have, you know, nations seeking hegemonic, you know, reaches in the area. So the only way today when you talk about Arab, when you talk Sunni and Shia, I think the dividing line today, or the battle, is Arab and non-Arab. It remains always a nationalistic thing. We cannot really call, you know, for instance, in Kuwait, our best relations are with the Shiite Iraqis. It's never been with the Sunnis. We always fought against Sunni Iraqis. You know, the Ba'ath consisted of Sunni leaders. And today we are in support of Sunni leaders, tribal leaders of Iraq, who perhaps tomorrow are going to jump on us again. But for the time being, we trust them as, you know, better, worthy counterpart to work with. And you will see that in the next election. You will see the involvement of outside parties in order to influence the influence of the choices of the Iraqi people towards an Arab, an Arab leaning, not towards an Iranian leaning, but not towards us, towards an Arab leaning as a whole. Thank you.
In the region, both from a military and a kind of political military perspective. I wondered if Admiral Cosgriff and Ambassador Hunter will listen to the following set of questions and respond to whichever ones you're most interested in. A new joint forces command to be stationed in Manama. Will that assume primacy over U.S. military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and how might it affect U.S. relations with the other GCC states? The concept of the U.S. defense umbrella, would you consider it a positive step if it were designed to cover all the countries in the Middle East, including Syria, Iran, and even the Palestinian territories? Is there ever a solution for Gulf security that doesn't include the U.S.? How might it be implemented? And if it's, how does the U.S. presence in the Gulf affect, this is a reworking of the same question, Afghanistan and Pakistan? Would a new security system in the Gulf shed any light on what we're trying to do in Afghanistan and Pakistan right now?
I'm not aware of something like the Joint Forces Command from the U.S. point of view having a lot of traction in Manama. I've heard different versions of that being a GCC idea or the like. As I said in my remarks, I don't see a lot of cohesion breaking out quickly, so nor do I think that would be the right approach by the U.S., but I don't rule it out. The U.S. defense umbrella, I think we start really with our closer friends, but that doesn't mean that has to be the only people that you'd want inside such a structure. I do agree with Ambassador Hunter's very inclusive view of that, with the proviso that there have to be means of dealing with spoilers, and until they stop being spoilers, they're not inside the tent. Nor am I to be consistent, I don't think there's any near-term opportunity for a serious defense security arrangement, defense-centric security arrangement in the Gulf without the U.S., principally the U.S., but also UK and France, but principally the U.S. I just don't see it, for many of the reasons you've already heard, gaining any sort of traction. And against one of my tests is that it has to be real. I mean, it really has to have capability in order to be credible. Lastly, I do think that anything we do in the region, if we actually step back and look broader gauged, would be helpful with Afghanistan and Pakistan and vice versa. I mean, these areas are so tightly interconnected. And if we stepped even further back and looked at the whole Indian Ocean region, I would think you could make a case that there's lots of other interested players that we really haven't discussed, India, China, and others that we need to be factored in. So yes, I do think such a effort inside the Gulf could have a good effect in Afghanistan and Pakistan, especially if we're able to find some way of dealing with Iran inside that structure.
Bob?